YouTube. For the love of the craft.
What up, beautiful people? So, have you ever wondered why your coil burns out every 2 to 3 days sometimes? Sometimes you can get a coil that lasts like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Sometimes it dies in half a day. You ever wonder why that happens? Well, I think I've came up with a solution as to why that happens. So, first off, what we really got to do is kind of explain how a coil works and what you're actually supposed to do when you build a coil. I will also be adding a little bit of explanation between the differences of the mesh coil and the round coil, and why I think the mesh coil has improved vaping and coil life, and explain why I believe it's a little better than the round wire. So what I'm doing here is called a fire test. I'm checking for hot spots and making sure all the coils are glowing from the center out. As you can see from this photo here, the coil has hot spots here and here that need to be worked out. To work out these hot spots, what I have to do is take my ceramic pliers, as you see me doing here, and I squeeze them together in what I call fusing the coil. I just heat each side up and squeeze it together to make them stay as close together as possible without overlapping over top of each other. Then I take my back of my thing, like you just saw me do, and I do what I call scraping the coil lightly. I don't press too hard, but just enough to kind of separate the coils far enough away from each other to leave a tiny little bit of a space that you can't really see too much by eye, but they're not touching each other and creating hot spots inside the coil. The end goal is to get the coil on each side lighting up both at the same time from the middle out, as you can see what's happening right now. So the reason why I'm telling you about building the coil is because we have to understand that when a coil is made and a resistance is read by the mod itself, it's for the whole coil. So it's reading the resistance of every single wrap and all the leg. That whole coil is what is giving the resistance and setting what the power should be for the mod. If you are getting hot spots like I was showing you where it's not firing up in certain spots, what's going to happen is when you're vaping, all of the power, so for example, say a coil uses between 50 to 60 watts and you set your power for 55 watts. That whole 55 watts of power is going to go straight to where it's glowing, but there's going to be nothing going to where those hot spots are. So instead of the 55 watts spreading out through the whole coil, it's glowing in that one little area and giving that area the full power, which is too much for just that one little area to handle, because it's supposed to be spread out through the whole coil. It's kind of like the nail laying on a bed of nails thing. Somebody can do it because it's spread out through their whole body. All the nails and the pressure is spread out evenly through the flat surface of your back or your stomach, wherever you're laying on, instead of one nail being concentrated on one area, which would probably pierce your skin. It's basically the same idea with the coil. If the energy or the power is not spread out through the whole coil, it's going to concentrate itself in one little area and be way too hot for it. It's going to burn the cotton right away, and that's why your coil will burn out within a day to 2 days sometimes, because of that process right there, where it just burns the cotton in one little area, and that's all you get is that taste from that area. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to show you a couple photos of round wire and mesh coils and a comparison of what they look like after they've died. Show you the cotton, show you the coil itself, and you can see why, in my opinion, the mesh coil is a little bit better, which I will also get into in a few minutes. This is a round wire coil made for the fire loop tank. As you can see at the top, there's two round wires that are perfectly silver. Doesn't even look like it's used, still looks brand new. But if you look a little bit further down into the middle, you can see it's black and gunked up from use. And then just underneath that, there's two more silver wires, although you can't really see it too well. They're there. And if you look actually at the top here at the cotton, you can see it's still practically white. Doesn't even look like it was used at all. This is the wire from that same coil pulled out. As you can see at the ends there, they're perfectly silver. So the first two loops are perfectly silver, doesn't even look like they were used. But if you look here in the center, you can see that the middle coils were really burnt. You can see this is where the most of the power was sent when you use the coil, or I guess when I used the coil. Here is the cotton that was wrapped around that coil. As you can see in the center, it's dark and black, but look at the ends. They're pretty white and pretty clear. So it's a clear indication that the middle of the coil was burnt. Here is the coil for the Mesh Pro tank. As you can see in the center, it is evenly dark throughout the whole coil. Also, on the top, you can see that the cotton is dark all around except for the area where the posts are. Now let's take a look at the mesh coil pulled out of the casing. As you can see, the wire itself is dark all the way through. There's no silver spots. It worked through the whole thing. And then if we take a look at the cotton, you can see the cotton is black pretty much the whole way through, except for the very, very edges. But you can see here that the coil and the mesh wire fired up evenly, and it used the full amount that it possibly could. Although there are a few other reasons why your coil might burn out quickly. For example, using it at the maximum setting. So if your coil takes up to 100 watts and you're using it at 100 watts, it's probably going to burn out a lot faster than if you use it at 95 watts or 90 watts. Sweetener in the juices also play a factor. Some sweeteners are really big coil killers and they just gunk up the coil really fast. The more thicker juices will also burn out coils a little faster. So while those can play a part in burning out the coil pretty fast, for the most part, it's going to be the concentration of the heat in certain parts of the coil and not spreading out through the whole thing. And that is really why I have noticed that the mesh coil, in my opinion, and actually a lot of my customers' opinion as well, is a lot better. It just has better flavor. The power goes throughout the whole coil, so it's not burning one little area super fast. I've noticed myself, I'm a power vapor. That's what I call myself because I vape a lot. So even for me, a round coil could burn out in like half a day to a day, where I haven't had a mesh coil last less than like 4 days. And I've been using them quite often the last couple months since they've come out. So if you can find a mesh coil, I really highly recommend you try it out and see for yourself what I'm talking about. Do your own tests, because of course this is just my opinion. I'm not like a vape scholar or anything like that. It's just from my observations, from what I've noticed happening, and from just looking at the coils themselves and knowing, I know a little bit about electricity and power, so I can kind of guess that that's why one of the main reasons is happening, from just trial and error and seeing and trying and testing, right? So that's pretty much why I believe the mesh coils are better and why I think you guys should really try them. So anyways, I really appreciate everybody sticking around and watching this video. I hope it was informative for you. I hope it gave you a little bit of insight onto why maybe your coils burn out super fast. And that's it. So as always, folks, stay safe, stay vape, and stay the hell off those cigs. Bye for now.
Thanks for watching.